Please welcome Matt Schechtner, CEO, Advertising Week.
Oh, come on. How disappointed you must be when there's a big announcement like that. You hope for like someone you'd actually like to see, and you got stuck with me, so what can I tell you? We're winding up day one of year 15, and we couldn't be more pleased than to present something in partnership with our dear, dear friends who have been with us right from the beginning at the Advertising Club of New York. And I just can't say enough about their team, led by Gina, and so many of them we know, Chris and Catherine, and so many. I still feel like I should mention Lucy, even though she's with TBWA now, obligatorily. But what they do to engage young people, to focus on not just the types of things that we all talk about that are part of the trade, but the things that matter beyond that, getting young people involved. They've done as much as anybody to try to move the needle on issues like diversity. And it's very much wired into the DNA of the Advertising Club. And I love seeing what they do every month. I see Gina does such a good job communicating. You see all the new young people that are coming into it, and they're just doing so much to plant new seeds and water them. Hello, Keith. And watch them all grow. And the Bravery conversation and that sort of mantle has been something that they've embraced, and they truly live it. And so to have the group that we have today with Colleen and Marc back with us again, and Keith, who will be on with us again later in the week, is thrilling. So I just want to thank the Ad Club. They continue to redefine what the very best of our industry means. And enjoy this, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Only 25% of the way there. That's it, folks. All you. Thanks.
That was a long walk.
That was hard work.
I feel like I don't have to go to the gym or anything.
Are we done?
Yeah. In our Hunger Games set.
Yes.
Well, thank you both for being here. This has been the thing that I've been looking forward to all day, to sit up here with both of you. And thank you to the Ad Club and to Gina, who consistently brings great people together to have meaningful discussions in this business. And we can't get enough of that. And thank you, Gina.
Gina.
So, people I admire and consider friends. It's a great time to kind of have this conversation. Keith, you're the ECD at 72 and Sunny. Also the founder of Saturday Morning, an initiative that works to bring awareness and shift perceptions on racial bias and injustice, which is 2 jobs that you have. And Marc, Chief Brand Officer, I don't even need to say anymore, but Chief Brand Officer for the largest and one of the most influential companies in the world, Procter & Gamble, who as a leader is such an inspiration, I think, to me and to everyone who comes from a place of honesty, who leads some of the most needed conversations in the industry, and he is truly changing the way that we do things and producing some incredible, brave, and powerful work. It's an interesting time. We were talking a little bit about it backstage. I've never quite experienced, in the time that I've been in the business anyway, that there's this coming together of a brand and what a leader stands for. It used to be that you could turn over a CMO on top of a company, and the company's brand kept traveling, and the CMO was just sort of put in to drive the next loop of the car. And I really think that you have been a big part in changing that. I think that culture, of course, has contributed to that, but this era of your leadership at P&G, I think, will be unlike any other. Not that there won't be other good ones, but that this will truly be defined by who you are. which is a position that a lot of creative professionals are frightened to take. And I think that's the reason I was excited to have you both here, actually, because I think you've both done that, and it's something we all endeavor to live by. So you have this incredible platform as a leader. Most recently, we were at AgColor, and I was really happy to be there. The event was extraordinary, but you in particular really brought the house down is almost the wrong word, because it was such an intimate moment. And to watch you pull a crowd of people's expectations of who you were and what you brought, just by bringing your personal journey to the stage and then following it through on what other people can do to have that same impact in their life and their work. Can you talk about that again here? Is that all right? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important. You said something interesting about the integration of leadership and brands, and I think that's what people expect today. They really want to know who is behind the brand,
Yeah.
who is behind the company, and they want to know what our values are, what we care about, whether we're really interested in both doing well but also doing good. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the journey that we've been on and that I've been on. And what I shared at AdColor was trying to actually encourage people to make it personal and to explore your own personal beliefs, biases, journey, because when you get that, you can get deep inspiration that will lead to amazing creativity that will really touch people in ways that it never has. And the story I told, and I'll go kind of briefly on this one, the shortcut it a bit. It really started for me about 20 years ago when I went to a spiritual ranch with Betsy, the love of my life, and my 3 daughters, and who are all under the age of 10. And we were at a spiritual ranch, and at the end of this, it was in Colorado, the leader came up to me and said, "I hope you know the good you can do, because business will be the greatest force for good in the future. Not government, not clergy, business. And your brands touch a lot of people, and they affect a lot of people. If you choose so, you can do a lot of good." It was one of those blinding moments of clarity, because we had just created the Easy Breezy Beautiful CoverGirl campaign, and the problem with it is that the spokes people in it were too young, too thin, and too white. Yeah. And they were very stereotypical from a standard of beauty standpoint. They did not represent women of color. And I looked at my young daughters and I said, "Look, what we do in advertising matters." So we changed. Went back, next stage, Queen Latifah, Brandy, Janelle Monáe, Ellen DeGeneres, Sofia Vergara, Pink. Amazing, amazing work. It just transformed really the standard of beauty, and I think really changed a lot. The fast forward, the next one is I was the I still am the African American Leadership Network executive sponsor, and I did a lot of good work at first, and then my efforts drifted, and then our company started to decline in representation. We started getting more attrition. Our businesses started to falter, and a very brave group of senior black leaders came and confronted me, our chief HR officer, and our CEO, and said, "You guys aren't committed, and you're not taking action." And they were right. We weren't doing enough. So that was another one of those painful moments that I had to really decide whether I was going to do something about it or I was going to slink away. Yeah. Instead, what I did is stepped up and talked to actually many people in this room, like Damon and Andrea and others, who really helped mentor me and helped me come to grips with what reality was. But probably the biggest one was there's this great ad called that we did for Hispanic Heritage Month called Tide Labels, "Wash away stains." Labels are stains. Wash away those stains. And it was about the labels that people ascribe to Hispanic, Latino, Latinas. And it really kind of struck me because I'm half Mexican. But I had never expressed that publicly because I was afraid. That was one of those moments of truth of coming to grips with my own personal demons, so to speak. And I really tried to understand that because it was important, because in order to be able to really get great work, I had to really come to grips with my own situation. And I realized that I suppressed things when I got into the professional life because I was afraid of the labels. I went back and thought about things my dad said, like when I said on a employment application, okay, it says race, Caucasian, black, Hispanic, what do you say? Dad, what do I say? I said, you say Caucasian. Oh. Because you're going to be judged differently. You won't get as good a job. So, and the last piece of this, which I think is important, is that his real name, Dad's name was Gonzalez, and my parents were going to name me Mick. So it's not lost on me the difference between being Mickey Gonzalez and Marc Pritchard, which is a lesson in privilege. I was privileged to be able to be viewed as white while still being able to be in touch with my Latino culture. Yeah. So, last year was the first time that I publicly proclaimed, proudly, I'm Mexican American. And it gave emotional safety to the organization. And when you have emotional safety, people have conversations. And when you have conversations, you get better work. And in fact, that's, what I'd love to do is show you one that we're particularly proud of, that I don't think would have happened had it not been for a number of people within our company who are having deep conversations, very personal conversations. So it's the talk.
Right. That's video one. If we could roll that, please.
Who said that?
The lady at the store.
That is not a compliment.
It's an ugly, nasty word, and you are going to hear it. Nothing I can do about that. But you are not going to let that word hurt you.
You got your ID? Yeah. Okay, so stop it.
Yeah. Now, when you get pulled over...
I'm a good driver, okay?
Baby,
Don't worry.
this is not about you getting a ticket. This is about you not coming home.
I'm gonna be okay. Right? Okay.
You are not pretty for a black girl. You are beautiful, period. Okay? Don't ever forget that.
It's beautiful.
Now, we took some heat for this because there were a lot of people who said, that's my life, thank you. A lot who said, I didn't realize that happened. And then there were some that said, oh, that doesn't happen anymore. And then there were some who were really angry, wondering why we were talking about social issues. I read some of the harshest mail I've ever seen. And we had to really, that was a moment of bravery. That was actually probably our biggest moment of bravery because we had to decide whether we were going to stand down or keep going. And we actually doubled down. Advertising spending, PR, we pushed it. We said, we're going to charge right through. And back to your original point, the reason why we did this is because we wanted to have conversations. This was about conversation because that leads to understanding, which leads to attitude change, which leads to behavior change, which leads to action. And that wouldn't come if leaders can't come to grips with their own personal stuff and aren't willing to go ahead and weather the storm. So we're pretty proud of it.
Yeah, I think you should be. I feel like I've always known both versions of you because they are one person, and you bring that to work every time I walk into a room with you. What I also love about that work is how beautifully it's done. You never rest on just having the right message and getting it out there. The acting, the casting, the narrative. I mean, beautiful. It's just impeccable, and I think those are the pieces that stay in the public consciousness over time. And that kind of timeless work is really hard to come by. So thank you. Keith, I keep joking with you about having two jobs because I feel like I have two as well. Except it isn't two, is it? It's one job. Yeah. And I want to talk to you about that. What does that bring to the work that you make every day doing Saturday morning?
Yeah, Saturday morning is wildly important in my life. But I think before I go into that, I want to say one thing about Marc is being very modest. His talk, for those who were at AdColor, there was a moment where Marc leaned in and let us know who he was. And you could see sort of a deep sigh of relief and people leaning in and engaging more in what he was saying. And I think there's a rarity in that level of honesty and truth. And I just want to say on this stage, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
And we wish there was more bravery like that.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Keep it up.
Yeah, my life is, I was the son of a minister and a speech pathologist. I always say my parents' biggest fear is that I grew up to be a stuttering atheist. But I'm neither. But it was a life of service, and you can't escape that. Yeah. And although I don't wear the cloth like my father, there's always a deep sense of wanting to give back and be altruistic and do for people, and that has always been with me. No matter how much you run away from your upbringing, it catches up with you. Mm-hmm. So I think in part, at least for me personally, Saturday morning has always been something, in theory, that has been important to me, which is giving back. As we talk about my work and being a creative human being, and wanting to share things, if I look at some of the things that growing up that I created, it was always about equality and wanting to be equal, and not more than equal, which I think is sometimes a misnomer when we talk about these things that we're talking about now. If you talk about LGBTQ, if you talk about African Americans or women, they're looking for a level of equality and not more than that. And I think that could be misconstrued, and I think it's important to remember that as we have this conversation today. Saturday Morning is an organization that started in the summer of 2016. Philando Castillo and Eric Gardner were killed almost in the same week. And I remember hearing about it on the radio. I was driving down the 405, and I was at a loss of what to do. And it was really important for me to reach out to people who I thought at the time understood the pain that I was going through. So I reached out to 4 people who I knew in the business, 3 people who I knew in the business, but who I'd never really had deep conversations with together. And that was Jeff Edwards, Gianta Jenkins, and Jimmy Smith. And I reached out to them and I texted them. I said, "Hey, let's just have breakfast. Let's talk." Because at the moment, that's all we wanted to. That's all I wanted to do. And we met and we had breakfast, and it turned into lunch, and it almost turned into dinner, because we realized that we had a lot of things to talk about. And so, long story short, that talk turned into a letter to Ad Age, which turned into, for us, a movement. And when we pinned that letter to Ad Age, Marc was one of the first people who called us and said, "I don't know what's going on here, but I want to be a part of it." and since then, we've been working with brands, reaching out to brands, and being affiliated with, for us, figuring out a way for creativity to help shift and change perception, and the misconception that for some reason or another that African American lives are not as important as others. So it's since then, and this is going on into our 3rd year, how it has affected my personal life and my professional life is beyond my wildest dreams. Professionally, being able to include these things in the work that I do, having these conversations more fluidly. There was a sense of not necessarily hiding, but you walk into a room and it's filled with people who don't look like you. Your first reaction is to figure out how to fit in. But what the actual thing that we should be doing as people of color and women is figuring out how to stand out. Because standing out is actually going to make the work better and bring perspective that is different than what we see every day on television. So 72 and Sunny is one of the reasons that I was interested in joining 72 and Sunny is because of their sort of altruistic nature. They were one of the first to join the 3%. They have a sponsorship with the Da Vinci School, which is about bringing diversity into the creative arts, bringing it to young students in schools. We do so many things that are important for the community. Even our initiative with Mayor Cassetti and working with the creative upstarts and inspiring young creatives through LA Originals was something that, for us at 72 and Sunny, was about bringing creativity into a space that it wasn't at the time.
I loved that work.
So it has been a natural space for me to sit in that office and work with some wonderful people there. But as you said, it is a second job in a way to have a nonprofit like Saturday Morning, and it has been the most fun that I've ever had because I get an opportunity to talk and work with my brothers on Saturdays and the community and think about ideas and ways to help solve some issues and problems that have been around, in my opinion, way too long.
This is not a question that was planned at all, but how do we support that? How do we help that? Because I am watching you guys and it's like, God, that is heartfelt, personal, amazing. I wasn't even aware that you weren't all friends before. Yeah. You know, I mean, I just love that. You have to figure out how to let us know how we support that as we go forward, because I think there's a lot of people that see a lot of value in what you're doing there.
And listen, we're learning as we go. You know, we are trying to figure out, this thing is moving faster than we are, which is great. And we're trying to figure out how to encourage more people to participate and bring their creativity to the cause. And all, everyone's creative, everyone has an idea. And if you apply that idea to things like bringing communities and the police together, or improving education, or all the things that are systemically out there that aren't going away unless we figure out how to stand up and fix it as a community. The world is reeling right now. We're in a weird space. We have to admit that the reason that so much work is being rewarded in our industry and so many brands are leaning towards more cause-related work is because the world is reeling. Yeah. And I think it's up to businesses to find ways to help.
Yeah, I do. I think we've reached this place where we're in a business of things. And I think everybody's figuring out that the exponential, endless growth of the number of things actually isn't solving the problems and turning the crafts that we have to doing bigger things. Now, you talked about community and the police. Peace briefs, really stunning piece of thinking. Like just as pure strategy, I thought was like, God, it takes a lot to come out with something like that. I would love to watch that film and then talk a little bit about that.
Sure, let's watch
Okay, let's roll that second piece of film, please.
That was my mentor, that was my father figure, that was everything.
Not guilty.
Justice for Stephon Clark.
Not guilty of third-degree murder.
This city killed my son.
Acquitted on all charges.
Nobody is being held accountable.
We got pulled over for a busted tail light in the back.
Acquitted on all charges in the shooting death of a black man after a traffic stop.
Black communities 100% have the back of many law enforcement. And as a result, it's really important for law enforcement to have the community's back 110%. Right.
So I want to, and it always, like, it doesn't matter how many times I've seen that case, there's that, that moment where you see, and it says, I am not armed. Yeah. And the fact that we have to send a young man out into the world with a badge on them, a sign that says, I am not armed. So that reaction in many ways, it goes against what we've always been told about making work for mass audiences, right? Like, our whole industry is built on this idea that you do focus grouping to decide how many people will think it's acceptable. All bets are off there. So what was the reception to that? How did that kind of push you to look differently at where you have to go? What are the boundaries on how hard you can push people and still have a message land with them?
Yeah, I think, you know, this piece of work for us, it really came down to a simple fact that this has been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
This is not new news to any African American, certainly not African American males. And the talk has always been, at least in one part, that you need to be careful when you go outside as a young black male. And there's not a lot of time, and unfortunately, media has created a stigma where black men are presumed dangerous before they're not. Yeah. So in that short period of time before a bad decision is made, there's a hope that putting your hands up might be a moment of clarity between the person who is approaching you and potentially arresting you and maybe worse. So we realized that when you do put your hands up, there's a billboard there. We entered that into out of home.
Yeah.
Because we realized that this becomes a banner in the community, and we were rewarded for it in Cannes for out of home. But the thing that, you know, for us, because all bets are off, because we were the focus group because we had experienced it, and we had a very clear understanding. Marc mentioned it earlier. When you really dig deep inside of your own sort of personal life and the things that you've experienced, and this is just a rule in creativity, when it comes from something you've gone through or experienced, it's always going to be better, it's always going to be sharper, and it's always going to be more acute to the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And that's at its core, that's how we came up with this thing.
So it just proves out that idea. It's not about how many people will find the message acceptable, but how true is it? Mm-hmm. And that truth will land where it's supposed to. Yeah, great respect for that.
You just went through that.
Yeah, we did.
You want to tell us about that?
Yeah.
I'm flipping the script here. I know. Come on, you got to talk
Marc,
about this.
I'm asking.
I know you're in charge, but
yeah, you know, I think that I mean the most that you can really say about Nike's recent work with Kaepernick is, you know, Nike, you live true to the fact that when the brand is at its best, it is mostly giving its platform to the voice of an athlete. And there is a long history of that in the brand, and I felt like rather than being a explosive new thing that Nike was doing, it was so fundamentally true to the core of what the brand has done from the beginning, you know, whether it's Hello World or whether it's Kaepernick, you know. Nike doesn't talk a lot on behalf of the work it makes, because that is the rule. The athlete talks about the work. The thing I think was great about that was that the act of bravery belonged to Colleen. To take your personal values and allow them to be so that they can be distributed to the world, and shine a light to other people to have them believe that they can also stand for their values, which truly I believe is his intent. Yeah. Is not to make marketing, but to kind of stand for inspiration. And I think the thing when you make statements like that is you ride the roller coaster. Yep. It's high when it's high and it's low when it's low. And if you go to bed and get some sleep and get up again, it'll be high again. And it's a long game.
Yeah.
And I think that really matters with work like this. You know, it kind of actually is a question to give back to you, which is, does work have to be uncomfortable to make an impact? Is bravery always the creation of discomfort, or are there other ways to land that message?
Well, before I go there, I just want to say one thing, which is
Give me a moving off.
the Kaepernick work, peace brief, the talk, so many other things. It demonstrates that what we do matters.
Yeah, it does.
And it matters more than ever now. And if you think about the amount of, there's $600 billion in the advertising world. So we touch everybody on the planet. And what's exciting for me about the work that's happening today is that people are stepping up. And they're stepping up to do good work like this. And it makes a difference. And so hopefully we can encourage everybody to keep doing those kinds of things and recognize that, you're going to have some ups and downs. But if you have it deep in your heart, you know in your soul what's right, you'll go forward.
Yeah.
Back to uncomfortable. You don't have to feel uncomfortable, but you have to feel something. and so
I'm into that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the best examples of some work that we've done. We've done it with Wieden+Kennedy was our proud sponsor Mom's work that we've been doing on the Olympics. And every Olympics we say, okay, we got to do better than the last time. Yeah. And this last one we decided we were going to take on bias, and because we knew it was going to hit a crescendo, and we came up with the idea. It was called Love Over Bias, and so it's joyous and wonderful. Yeah. I felt no discomfort. All I felt was joy, and energy, and yes, I cried. So, you want to see it?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Someday we'll get it together and we'll get it all done. Someday when your head is much lighter. Someday we'll walk in the rays of our beautiful sun. Someday when the world is much brighter. Oh, child, things are gonna get easier.
No, that's just plain stupid.
This work, we set, the brief was very simple. We need to talk about bias.
Yeah.
And, Curvins and Patty came up with this brilliant work. There were a lot of conversations throughout the entire process, again, because what it was about is we really had to go deep in terms of deep understanding. And we made a conscious choice to focus on race, gender, economic, religious, LGBTQ, disability. We wanted to be completely inclusive. Yeah. And that's important. So that's, I love this work. And it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. But what it can be is but you do have to feel something. And, we're really proud of it.
Yeah, we are too.
So now you got the next round you got to do pretty soon.
Yeah, well, no, that is the blessing and the curse of that. Mm-hmm. That there is the victory round inside of Wieden every time we manage to get another fresh take on it. Yeah. And then as we move into the brief, everyone's like, well, round set, like what are we going to do with that? And people run to the corners, and then they start to make their way back to the middle again, because it always is what's the truth.
Yeah.
So to that end, to kind of wrap us up today, I want to talk a little bit about legacy. Mm-hmm. because I think everything that the two of you are doing right now is so much a product of this moment, this time, this window. It's a moment where if you're someone who wakes up and wonders why you work in advertising, there's so many good answers out there right now. So moving forward, the future, making lasting ideas out of temporal media. What is the legacy that you want to leave? Do you want to go first, Keith?
Ooh.
I know, sorry. I mean, you're already leaving a really good one. So.
You know, I still have to go back to my mother and father.
Yeah.
And their purpose and what they taught me. And like I said earlier, the more you try to move away from what I believe you're destined to do in this world and why you're brought into this world, the closer you get to it. So, you know, I go back to the things that they taught me, which is humility, but also my father would always say, we were put on this world to help others. That is one of the reasons why God put us on this earth, and to take care of one another. And if Saturday morning and this platform that I've been given and I'm able to share with my brothers who work with me, gives that opportunity to someone else, and if someone is inspired to create something else that's like Saturday morning, and there is some sort of chain effect where people will remember that Saturday morning was the thing that opened their eyes and helped them help someone else, that's a pretty good legacy, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
It's a great legacy.
You're on your way.
Yeah.
Definitely. And, you know, I'll tell you something, just a little connection here. I have a firm belief, my Betsy, my wife, tells me that the universe will unfold as it should, and she also, of course, says that she believes that souls travel together, and I truly believe that. There's a reason why we're on the stage together.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we connected. When you put that brief out there on Ad Age, we made a phone call. There was something about it that connected. Then it actually turns out when we did the talk, Jeff and Keith gave us some feedback, and they said, you know, guys, you missed on a couple of fronts. And what do you mean? I said, well, you know, you missed black men.
Yeah.
You didn't depict black men really in an accurate way. And I have to say, I really didn't understand what they were talking about. But we had a conversation, a deep conversation, a long conversation, several conversations.
Yeah,
and there were a number of things that really helped, because then I started to realize, oh, okay, if you show a black man who's not engaged, that just reinforces the stereotype of disengaged black father. You show them in a place where they're in a subservient position, that reinforces that point. And I thought, okay, I got it. So I said,
that's right.
How about, here's a brief for Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Give it to us. So we're working together now.
I love
that. And they have just, I have to tell you, it's just this range of work that the hard part is choosing what to go with first. So it's going to help, and I'm just feeling, as you were even showing that work, the peace brief. It just so happens, the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion is going to do it hasn't been announced yet, so I'm going to spill it. So I'll tell you that's going to happen. It's going to focus on race, and it's going to focus on community.
Wow.
At P&G, we're working on something with the National Underground Freedom Railroad in Cincinnati, and we're going to talk about race and the community. And basically, we really need to feel like we have to talk about how do we bring empathy together with the black community and police.
That's great.
I don't think that would have happened had we not connected.
That's great.
And so, anyway, so just to reinforce.
There's legacy for you.
There's legacy for you. It's going to happen. Oh, okay.
And yours.
And mine. Legacy is one of those weird questions because it feels kind of awkward.
Yeah.
And I would just tell you what I do every day is I wake up and I ask God for the strength to be useful. All I want to be is useful. And I found throughout my life, when I think too much about me, I'm not useful. When I think more about what to do for others, then it works. Things happen. Everything opens up. I'm literally blessed to be in a position where we are a large advertiser, we do touch a lot of people, and we can use our voice and our reach for good. And it turns out it's not only good, it's good for growth.
Yeah.
And so, and it's good for creativity. So, you know, as long as I'm in any position to be able to make a difference, then I'm going to really focus on being useful. And I hope that my gravestone said he was useful.
I'm sure it will say more than that, but at the very least. You know, I think the thing that I love about this discussion that I think we have all found, and I look around and I see it dawning on more and more people all the time, which is this business, this industry, it actually isn't a pursuit unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, the rise, the growth, the progress, the promotion, the largesse, what I'm seeing right now is that a whole group of people have said, it doesn't go anymore until all of us go more.
Right.
And everybody is reaching sideways. And I
Yeah.
think you two are stunning examples of incredible men, incredible humans. And I'm really grateful to get this time to sit with you.
And what about you?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'm just trying to help.
What's your legacy?
Oh, my legacy.
Legacy, yeah. There you go.
Oh, you know, I think it would be that thing. I think there really was a moment when I looked at it and went, am I done with this?
Yeah.
And when I really picked up steam and love and power for it, was when I realized how much lateral work there was to do. And I really do think that that's what I hope to bring to the next round of this industry is carrying on Dan Wieden's legacy of this being a place where people find their voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Anyway, thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Great,
Honestly,
thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.